At the beginning, I mean, it was so beautiful, and I was in tears because I felt so glad to be there, and it was so beautiful. But that section turns into a lot of road walking, and walking on the pavement is just really hard on your feet. So by the end, I was almost in tears because my feet hurt so much.
Welcome to Created Creative. I'm Dawn, and we have the exclusive travelogue of Ruth Hetland's walk through New Zealand today. So it's a little bit different in that while Ruth was traveling through New Zealand by foot, she was sending voice memos for us to put together today's podcast. So that's what you're going to hear today. The first half is not so much a conversation. It's more these voice memos. She was leaving. And then the second half of the podcast, she just got back. We had a quick conversation. So you will hear some of her concluding thoughts at the end of this podcast. So enjoy.
Good morning, Dawn. This is the first voice memo I'm sending you, and I haven't left yet. I'm still in Detroit Lakes. It was blizzard yesterday, but it has stopped snowing, and my flight doesn't leave till this afternoon, so it shouldn't be hard to get to the airport. My younger son, Jesse, is taking me to the airport, and I just weighed my pack because it feels so heavy, and it's actually without the water attached and without most of the food. It's at 25 pounds, which is actually pretty good. They say it shouldn't be more than like 40 pounds when it's all full. So, I mean, I'm very much within the limit, and 25 pounds is actually really good, but it's kind of funny how heavy it feels. But I've been practicing carrying it, walking on my treadmill here and there. And I know from everything I've read, it'll get easier the more that I walk. And I'm very, very excited to get going. So anyway, have a wonderful day. Bye. Good morning, Dawn. I am not very far away yet. My flight out of Fargo was delayed significantly, and so then it would have messed up every connection I had, and so I had to rebook everything. And so now I'm trying again today. Today is, I don't even know what day it is anymore. It's the 30th. It's the 30th of December. And so the plan now is to be leaving around 5 o'clock today, and I'll fly through Dallas to Brisbane to Queenstown. And I got everything rebooked at the places I'm staying and the rides I need to get after that. And I did a pretty good job of not getting too flustered about it because that is part of travel, right? And I was so lucky that I could just come home and sleep in my bed last night. So that's the kind of travel hiccup to have where you just get delayed a little bit and it's not anything severe. So anyway, still here in Minnesota, but hopefully leaving this afternoon. Good morning, Dawn, and Happy New Year from Brisbane, Australia. It's about 6:30 in the morning here, and it's 71 degrees, and I can see the mountains off in the distance from the airport, and the grass is green. And I have a couple hours now where I'm just going to walk around and stretch my legs before I get on my last flight to Queenstown. And I'm so excited that I'm so close, but I will give you an update soon, and I hope you're having a great day. Bye. Hi, Dawn. I'm in Queenstown now, and I just finished rereading the book that started all of this. It was a book called Bewildered by Laura Waters. I read it when I was on sabbatical, and it was kind of what inspired this whole thing. And so I decided to reread it and ended up bringing it with me because I wasn't quite done with it. I'm not carrying it for the next month. So when I'm out on the trail, so I'm going to leave it here at the Airbnb and hope that it inspires someone else the same way it inspired me. Yesterday, when I got a ride from the airport to the Airbnb, the Uber driver asked what I was doing here in Queenstown, and I told him. And then he asked, "How old are you?" And I told him, and apparently I'm the same age as his mom. And he said she would never do something like this. So she's either a lot wiser than me or something. But I'm very excited to start walking. Hopefully we'll start walking today, later do a little tiny portion, and then the first long walk would be tomorrow. But I'll keep you posted. I hope you're doing great. Hi, Dawn. So yesterday I started at the southernmost terminus of Te Aroa Trail, and that's at Bluff, New Zealand. And the section that I did yesterday was 22 miles. It was kind of funny because at the beginning, I mean, it was so beautiful, and I was in tears because I felt so glad to be there, and it was so beautiful. But that section turns into a lot of road walking later on, and walking on the pavement is just really hard on your feet. So like by the end, I was almost in tears because my feet hurt so much. But I did have a victory yesterday. yesterday in that there was this really nice 22-year-old young man. We started about the same time, and I figured he would be way ahead of me, but we kept kind of passing each other back and forth, and I ended up finishing yesterday's section before him. So that made me feel pretty good. It's the small victories, right? The speed of how fast I want to get through this trail isn't the point. The point was just that it was a hard day yesterday. So it was kind of nice seeing that it was hard for someone who was 30 years younger than me as well. So anyway, I don't really care how long it takes me to do this, but it's just kind of nice to have unity in suffering. Today gets to be a shorter day, which is nice. So my feet can recover a little bit, and then I get to do some writing today. And then tomorrow should be a longer one again. So I'm doing good, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye. Hi, Dawn. As I record this, I am currently by the Whaiu River, which is in Tautepere, New Zealand. I don't think I'm saying that right, but it is known as the sausage capital of New Zealand, which is actually interesting to me because one of the things I do enjoy about New Zealand is their sausage rolls, I have to say. And I had one this morning here, and it was quite good. Yesterday was a long day of hiking, 22 miles of hiking, and then 2 miles that I hitched a ride. But I was so lucky because there was a waitress at the cafe I had just stopped at who stopped to give me a ride when it was pouring rain. And that was really nice because I knew I was getting kind of cold and wet and I should probably catch a ride. But hitchhiking is scary. But then a ride appeared and that was beautiful. And today I am taking it really easy. I'm staying here in this same town. I'm just doing some day hikes out from this town because, while I enjoy walking a lot, I also enjoy kind of sitting around too. And today feels like a good day for that. So I'm here, I'm doing well, and I'll talk to you soon. Hi, Dawn. Well, another day and about 10 miles so far today, and I'm pausing to send you a note. I probably will only go about 5 more miles today, but it's funny how with everything going on back in Minneapolis, my mind is there a lot, and everyone I meet is asking me what I think about it, and I think a lot about all the preachers who are going to be preaching tomorrow about it, and it's just hard. It's hard for everybody, and I've been very much going rogue on the trail because sleeping in the tent is just hard. Like truly and honestly hard. And so I feel like I'm going trail adjacent sometimes and not necessarily on the trail because I will study the map like it's my job. And if there's any way that I can walk to get to an actual lodge or a cabin, I do that. And actually so far that's been working out, but I'm not staying right on the trail. But it seems like most people don't. Like people are always coming and going off of the trail. And so I go on the trail, I do a distance, and then I go and find somewhere to sleep. And then sometimes if there's a route that is going alongside of the route and it gets me to another bed at night, then I've decided that that's important to me and I do that. But yeah, I'm doing good, but really thinking about everyone back home an awful lot right now. And it's weird to be a US citizen in another country and seeing how people see our country through their eyes. It's very unsettling to know that they see our country as being a truly scary place and knowing that it actually is, Anyway, thankful for this day and we'll talk to you soon. Bye. Hi, Dawn. I hope you're doing good. Today was another long day of walking, and so I'm pretty tired, but it was a good day. But I do have to say that after seeing the news from Minnesota and the terrible shooting of Renee Good, my mind is very much on people back home and just thinking about how fragile everything is. And I've been so lucky here because I have felt safe like all the time. But now watching all of these news reports, it starts to filter into your mind and you start to think, wow, there's so much going on in this world that is so scary and maybe I'm not safe. So I need to watch less news, I think, right now because I've been spending so much time alone alone the last few days. So when I spend time alone and I'm watching news that is really bad, then it starts to affect my spirit, and that's not good either. So I'm going to stop watching so much news, but my heart really is back in Minnesota with everybody there. And I mean, they're closing down even in Detroit Lakes. I saw a news report that a Mexican restaurant in Detroit Lakes is closing down, and it says on their door it's for family emergency, but everyone is assuming that they're scared because ice is getting closer and closer. So there's nowhere that is not being affected. And like I've said on Facebook, everybody here, it's what they talk about too. When they hear I'm from Minnesota, it's what they want to talk about. And that's not unusual. So I feel really spoiled and privileged that I get to be here walking on these beautiful trails when people back home are going through such really just the streets are being infested with this sickness of what ice is doing, and it makes me sad. But I'm going to keep walking, and I hope you're having a good day, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye. Hi, Don. 2 exciting things today so far. The first is I've realized as of today, I've been here 14 days, and that's about as long as it takes for me to actually let my brain settle down enough so that I can write something that feels like it's actually something I want to write. Like part of what I wanted to do here is write, and I've been writing, but it's all just kind of felt like processing more than creating. And today I felt like I created something, so that felt really good. And also, the place where I am tonight, I'm staying in a lodge that I found, and I'm coming up on a town, Tiano, tomorrow. And I met somebody who tomorrow they're headed that way, and they said, well, I could just give you a ride. And I said, well, no, I was fine to walk, but thank you. But then they said, well, I could just take your backpack, and then you don't have to carry your backpack tomorrow. And I was like, oh my gosh, yes. So tomorrow they're just going to pick up my backpack and drop it off at the place that I'm going to stay tomorrow. And then I don't have to carry it. And I'm so excited about that. I mean, of course, I'm keeping my passport and my phone on me in case they turn out to be, not good people and they steal my backpack. I can still get home. But they seem very nice. And I'm so excited to just walk tomorrow and not carry the backpack. So that was very exciting. And I hope you're having a good day. I'll talk to you soon. Bye. Hi, Dawn. I hope you're doing well. I got to this town, Tiano, yesterday, and I was so glad to have a day just to be here in this town today. My knee has been bothering me, so I think it was good for me to just not go very far today. I just walked around town a little bit. And I was going to tell you about, so this is a small town. It's a big tourist town because it's kind of on the edge of, like, a lot of people will use this as a base to go out to do longer hikes and different like helicopter trips and whatnot. So it's a small town, but a lot of tourists right now because it's summer here. And I saw that there was a film being played here called Shadowlands. And it was like just a view of the Fjordlands area here of New Zealand. And it was views of it from helicopter and whatnot. So I thought I would go see that. But then it was interesting because before they showed the film, they told us a little bit about it. And the guy who had made it had flown helicopters here for years and years and years. And then he teamed up with one of the people that worked on Lord of the Rings to help with it. And then also another popular New Zealand voice actor to voice the narration. But then they needed a place to show it. So they built the theater here so that they could show this movie here all the time. It plays like 3 times a day here, always. And then they do also have 3 or 4 other films showing here at the same time. So it's not just that movie, but they built it entirely to show this one movie that plays all the time. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But I'm doing good, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye. Hey, Dawn. So this next section that I'm on now, you know how I said before, I was kind of trying to skirt around the edges of the trail so I could, get to accommodations. And that worked for a little while. But now this current section, it's pretty much all pretty remote. But they do have huts that are up in the mountains here. Like you can gauge how far you go so that if you play it right and you get there early enough, you can have bed in the hut. And the huts are very simple. They're mostly just shelters, but they do have, 4 walls and bunks. And so for the next few days, I believe that is my lot. So far, I really don't see people very much at all on the trail. And I don't know if I'm missing people or they're off doing other side trips or whatever. Or I know that there's southbound people that are still coming this way. And from what I read on the message boards, there's a big glut of them that are going to hit my area pretty soon, but they're not here yet. And I think maybe the other northbound people, most of them are kind of ahead of me. So I'm just in my own little bubble right now. But the good news is I probably won't have trouble finding a bunk to sleep on. So I don't know. I feel like I'm going a little bit nuts. So talking to myself, which is funny because I'm an introvert, but I think I'm reaching my introvert limit. Like I miss my boys and I miss kind of being around people, but I'm doing good. My knee is still bothering me some, but the day off in Teanu did help. And I hope you're doing good. And I look forward to talking to you soon. Bye. Hi, Don. Haven't spoken, so my voice needs to warm up. I'm doing good. I should make it to Queenstown today, so that's very exciting. I think on the last recording, I'd been talking about how I hadn't seen anybody for days, and then I was feeling kind of lonesome, and then came across this hiker from Italy, a guy who, as soon as he found out I was a pastor, he immediately started talking about, everything he knew about the church, which was apparently a lot. Like I started zoning out after not too long, but as he was talking, I'm like, maybe being alone isn't so bad. But anyway, it's been really good. This last section, though, has been long and it's been alone and it's been kind of hard, but now I'll get to Queenstown, so that is exciting. And I hope you're doing well. Bye. Hi, Dawn. Well, after 22 days of hiking and backpacking and adventuring, yesterday I made a decision. It was pouring rain, and the forecast for the next many days is rain. And I was like, you know what? I'm not feeling that. I'm not feeling that at all. So I got on a bus and I went up to Lake Tekapo, which was about 50 miles away. And that was kind of the goal of what I had wanted to see. There's this church in Lake Tekapo, the Church of the Good Shepherd, which actually turned out to be this huge tourist trap. Like all the pictures of it are this beautiful stone church in the middle of nowhere. But it's actually like just tons of tourists there just swarming around this church. And so anyway, that was kind of anticlimactic, but I made it there. And then my plan is I'm going to take the bus back to Cromwell, which is just outside of Queenstown. I'm going to meet with a friend of mine. Actually, well, you remember John Stevens and his brother Chris, who you met. They have a mutual friend here from their Bible camp days at Luther Heights who lives in Cromwell. And so I'm getting together with her and her sister. And then I decided I changed my flight. So I'm coming back a few days early so that I can have some time at home before I go back to work. And I'm super excited about it. It's funny how, you reach a point in a journey where you're like, okay, I did this and now I want to go home. And that's exactly where I got to. And I feel like I've completed it and now my sights are just set on moving forward. So I'm really excited about that. So there's my update and I can't wait to talk to you again soon. Take care. Bye.
Welcome back.
Feels like it's been a bajillion years.
You've had a whole life experience.
Yeah, there's been that going on and then so much in our world going on too that it feels like a lot of time has gone by.
So now you're back. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Tell me, are you able yet? How long have you been back?
Yesterday. I got
Yesterday,
back.
less than 24 hours. And are you still in the granular of, whoa, I'm back in another hemisphere? Or are you able to make sweeping statements about this experience?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it might take some time to really process everything. But at the same time, I was alone so much that I did do a lot of processing while I was there too. So I feel like I can talk about it.
We
My
can talk about
answers-
it again in 6 months.
Yeah, might be different in 6 months when I process it.
You were in another hemisphere 24 hours ago. How was the journey back? How was the reentry? Let's go granular first before sweeping statements.
I was really looking forward to coming back because while it was everything that I wanted it to be, it was also really hard too. hard physically, but then also hard being away when so much was going on back here in Minnesota. And my kids are grown up now, but still, it's like you want to be close to your family when there's things going on back home. And I thought about that more than I ever dreamed that I would. So it was good. And just the little things too, like there, it was truly summer. The days were long, like sunset at 9:30, 9:40 at night.
More like when you're in Fargo. Well, I guess Detroit Lakes is probably just as far north.
And so just to come back to the darkness, even more than the cold, is a big change.
And how does that feel to come back to the darkness?
It's January. It feels like that's how it should be. You know?
There's something right and true about it in your lived experience.
Yeah. Like there, it felt like it was July. They're used to January being like that. You know, New Zealand is very similar to the US in a lot of ways, in that there's no language barrier. You can go to the store and find what you want.
And what you're familiar with.
Yeah. And so there's not much culture shock at all. But the people overall are a lot more laid back. And they were very interested to talk about what was going on in the United States, for sure. They were very interested to find out where I stood on how things were happening.
They're thinking, did I just meet someone who actually voted for this?
Yeah. And I would meet other U.S. citizens when I was there, and all of us were aghast. So thank goodness I didn't meet anybody who was like, oh, good things are happening.
Are we going to be so bold as to say those who travel widely are more likely to have a progressive mindset?
I think that's a pretty fair assumption, that if you're open to your world being opened up, that you see things differently than maybe others do. Yeah.
So how would you characterize this trip in 10 words or less?
10 words or less. It was hard, beautiful, lonesome, thought-provoking, and I survived.
Yeah. What parts of it were like, this is what I plan to do and I'm doing it?
There's one thing to read for 2 years about a trail, and a whole other thing to do it, and then to meet people along the way who've been doing the same thing, and just how a person reacts under stress and pressure. Like, you learn a lot about yourself when you're hungry or tired or sore. And there were days, especially at the beginning, when my feet were really getting used to walking that much, that I was like, Ruth, you signed
Signed up for this.
They signed up for this. You paid good money to come and be able to have this time, you know? And I'm so glad that I did, but especially those first days were really hard when I saw how much mileage, and I told you that in some of the clips too, like they had these prescribed routes every day. And that was like 22 miles a day at the beginning. And then I realized I've got to make this doable for me.
Yes.
And so that I'm not just dead at the end of every day. But then a lot of my energy had to shift into planning, like, okay, if I'm not going to go this prescribed distance, I've got to be able to figure out where can I sleep that night.
Right, because you're not getting to the next place.
Yeah, and you can't just camp anywhere. There's certain places where you can wild camp, but not everywhere. Or can I walk to this lodge? So a lot of it became planning. And then, do I have enough food for this section? Do I have enough water? Because where am I going to find water? And so when I pictured it beforehand, I pictured a lot of time for walking and writing. But so much of my time was just taken up in
strategizing.
The minutia. I was strategizing. Yeah. Yeah. Little things, just survival. And then the little fears that creep up because we're women in society, and am I going to die? Like, I never encountered anything that made me feel unsafe. It was just the worries in my mind of...
You created it,
Yeah.
What was most surprising, other than spending so much time on the minutia of survival?
How alone I was most of the time, because almost all the people I met were going the opposite direction. And so I'd see them maybe for, in passing.
Yeah.
But then I was alone 75% of the time, at least, that I was gone.
Okay.
And I'm an introvert.
Right.
And so it surprised me that I got really lonesome for community. I kept thinking so much about how we talk about community and how important it is. Yeah. And even though how I get my energy, I gather it through being alone, but I need my community too. And it's totally different to experience something like this by yourself as a community. And I'm still glad I did it. I wouldn't change it. And maybe I needed that time alone too, just to process and
Right.
think, but it wasn't easy. And that was surprising to me how hard that aspect was because I knew I would be, but it's different when you
When
are.
you're in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is something almost physiological when you're alone a lot.
Yeah. And the things you start thinking about, and processing that I thought I dealt with this. Maybe I haven't.
Because
As you're
there's so much
hiking
space
and
for it.
yeah, there's so much space for it. And then when you don't have signal and you can't scroll your thoughts away or whatever, and
Oh, you
it's
had to
just,
face your actual brain.
yeah. And what a blessing, but also, oofta.
Or this should
Yeah.
be required of everyone at some point.
Yeah.
Do you remember at the beginning of Youth Encounter, we had to spend 24 hours in silence?
Yes. And that was nothing. I felt like that was
Yeah.
easy.
And we were at a camp in South Dakota in the Black Hills, but you could see people. Like you knew
Yeah.
people were around. You weren't
Right.
alone. You were just silent.
Yeah. In fact, like we shared tents with other people. You just couldn't
You
talk
just
to
couldn't
them.
talk.
Yeah.
I suppose monks do that all the time.
Yeah. There's something, though, like you said, different about just you see them, they're there. And like I would often think about that's probably the biggest worry loop I would have. What if something happened and I'm alone and I'm in another country and it's this
Right.
snowball thing? So it's no, I'm safe, I'm fine, everything's fine. Had to bring myself back to this moment. I'm healthy, I'm good, everything's okay.
I did think about how disconnected you were, and you chose it. To fly somewhere and you stayed in an Airbnb the first night, but to not have a hotel or a car rental or tickets to lots of things, like you were there for the nature, and thus the systems of society were not tracking where you were.
Yeah, I did have, it's called a PLB, a personal locator beacon. So if I did get into trouble, I was one button push away from a helicopter coming. But still, it's a very lonesome feeling, to.
Right. Someone could find you.
Or if I fell and hit my head before I pushed the button.
Yeah, I'm sure
So-
there are stories, but it didn't happen. But
It
it's
didn't
so
happen.
rare in our society for no one to know where you are.
Yeah.
I remember
It
that
is.
distinct feeling in college, backpacking through Europe. I remember the day my friend Janelle and I went to a different country on a train, and I was like, I cannot believe no one even knows what country we're in.
Yeah.
Like, it's
Uh-huh.
the weirdest. Because even
Right.
before cell phones, people would have a general idea where we were. And we
Yeah.
just were like, let's go to Luxembourg.
Yeah, it's both an exhilarating feeling and also kind of a lot of people would drop me notes and be like, are you alone on this trip? And I'd be like, I prefer the term unsupervised.
And why do you
Yes.
prefer that term?
Like I chose it. I wanted to do it by myself. And so it wasn't like, oh, I have to do this by myself or
It
no.
wasn't like you can't think of a single person who would possibly go with you. You didn't
Yeah,
even invite
right.
anyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was unsupervised.
Do you
I
feel
think
like there's a hierarchy in the word unsupervised?
I feel like it gives more of a sense of freedom and not, oh, poor me. It's like-
Unobserved.
yeah. And there's a lot of good things about going places by yourself.
Totally.
You can do what you want, when you want, eat what you want.
Right.
So there's a lot of good things about that. And I prefer it in some ways, but
Maybe have it also not be where you're in remote backcountry for weeks at a time. If you're going to be
Right.
unsupervised.
Yeah.
Is that what we
Like-
learned? I'm just trying to understand.
yeah, I would much rather go places by myself and experience things by myself than be with someone who was like not wanting to be there. Or,
We need to find our travel buddies.
yeah, like I think about travel experiences I had, like when we were on team,
Yes.
and you're experiencing something, but you're with a group of people. That was always really good.
Because everyone had already bought into why we're there, what we're doing. There weren't a lot of variables.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
yet
shared
everything was a
purpose.
variable because we traveled every day.
Yeah.
But we all knew what it was and we had a way of being.
Yeah. A shared purpose, a shared sense of adventure. And so traveling with people can be wonderful, but it can also be really hard if you're with people that don't want to do the same things or are complaining or
Incapable of doing what you want
Yeah.
to do.
There's a time and a place for both. And going by myself, I wanted to see what was going to bubble up in my mind and while I spent that time alone. So it was purposeful, but I was surprised when I was in places, when I would go to towns and talk with people and be like, oh, are you alone? Are you by yourself? It was this unusual
Oh, most people
thing,
do the hike with someone.
Yeah. Or this was when I was in town and I would be with other people, aren't even hiking. Oh, you're traveling by yourself. On the trail was a whole other thing because when they found out I was doing the trail, they're like, oh, because there are people my age that do it, but it's by far
It's an outlier.
something people do in their 20s.
When they're finding themselves and they have so much time between either school and a job, or there's just more white space in your life when you're in your 20s.
Yeah. So in some ways I felt like it was seen as being weird, but then I'm like, well, I don't care.
Your Uber driver was impressed.
My Uber driver, my mom would never do this. I'm like, I'm not your mom.
Your boy's mom did.
When I would meet these young men on the trail about the same age as my boys, I'd be like, I was surprised the mothering feeling that would come up like, oh, I just want to make you hot dish. Let me make you hot dish.
And they were like, what's a hot dish? Because they're in New Zealand. What's the best part about being back?
So far, it's wearing something different because I wore the same 2 shirts and 2 pairs of pants. And that was all that I wore for
like a month.
Yep. And I really looked forward to wearing something different. And I brushed my hair.
You've got to comb. You've been reunited.
Yes, that was funny. It's amazing all the things you don't really need to have.
What'd you bring that you never used? Other than the personal locator beacon. Thank goodness.
Yeah, thank goodness. I had brought a ton of first aid stuff. I don't know what I thought was going to happen to me, but I wanted to be prepared. And
well, if you need it.
Yeah, there were times I was glad, but it was mostly like scrapes and things I got. But I had way too much first aid stuff. Now, let's see. I had brought both a sleeping bag and a really light sleeping quilt. I didn't want to be cold at night, and I was really glad I had both. I packed pretty well, I have to say.
Good.
For my 2 years of listening to podcasts, it served me well. I was pretty ready, and my shoes were amazing. I never got a single blister. My feet hurt just from being on them so much, but I never got a single blister. They're called Ultras. They're amazing shoes.
And they're more like a hiking boot or more?
They're shoes. They're called trail runners. They're like
yes, I've seen that class of shoe.
And those are recommended more because where I was, you were walking through wet areas a lot, and they dry out a lot faster than the boots do.
Okay.
And the boots are just usually pretty stiff.
Yes,
and these aren't stiff at all. So anybody wanting to go hiking, I recommend the Ultra Trail Runners.
Okay. Any other recommendations to somebody who may want to do this?
I think it is a really valuable experience. I think I do need more time to process all of it. And I would totally recommend it. Like my older son was talking about how he would like to do something like that. But the reality of it is it's hard each day.
Once you're doing it, it's hard.
Yeah. But I would often think, and when I would write in my journal, that I was either exhilarated or miserable. There was like nowhere in between. It was the most beautiful thing, and I feel amazing, or I'm crying and thinking about I'm processing something from my past. It's like there was no middle ground because you don't have the comforts of home to numb yourself with in between times. It's just all wonderful or awful.
It was productive misery then, if you were processing and moving things through.
I feel like it was. I really do. Yeah.
Productive misery. Theme of your day. Thanks for joining us for Created Creative.
We're so glad that you could be with us.
And go create something.
Go create something.